Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Regional Educational Laboratory Mid-Atlantic Dashboard webinar. We will begin shortly, but before we get started, we would like to go over some features of this webinar. This webinar was developed specifically for teachers. However, all educators are welcome. The templates we'll be using today are designed for the Mac. This webinar is also designed for those with some experience using Microsoft Word and Excel, like creating tables and charts. And please note that the data dashboard that we create today is not for the use on the internet. Now let's turn to the room features. On the left of your screen, you will see a box marked Parking Lot. Please use this box for any content-related questions or comments you may have throughout the session. We will do our best to address all questions during the presentation. In the lower left-hand corner of your screen, you will see a closed captioning box. This box is interactive, allowing you to change the text size and color. You can also roll up the box to see more of the text by clicking the arrow that is circled in red on this slide. In the resource box, which is to the right of the closed captioning box, you can download files by highlighting them and clicking Download File. At this time, if you have not downloaded the REL project.dotx Word file and the REL project.xlsm Excel file, please do so now. You will need them for the hands-on portion of the webinar. If you would like to view the PowerPoint as a full screen, you can do so by moving your cursor to the top of the slide and clicking the arrow icon. Then when you want to come back to Room View, just click the arrow icon again. Throughout the webinar, we will ask you to participate in some polls. We will also be using Q&A boxes during certain question and answer periods. A new box will open over top of the slides so that you can type in your specific question. At the end of our webinar, the presenter will send you to our evaluation survey. The survey will open up in a new web browser page. And at the end of the survey, you will have the option to print a certificate of attendance. Now we would like to give you a brief overview of the REL. Our primary mission is to help educators access and use high-quality research to make evidence-based decisions that can lead to improved student outcomes. We conduct research and provide professional development resources and tools, like the Data Dashboard webinar. While we primarily serve education stakeholders in Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and the District of Columbia, our professional development events are open to everyone, so be sure to tell your colleagues about us. You will also have an opportunity to continue this conversation long after the webinar has ended by using our REL Mid-Atlantic online forum. Now I would like to introduce our presenter, Dr. Rosemarie O'Conner. Dr. O'Conner serves as a Deputy Director for the Regional Educational Laboratory Mid-Atlantic. She is a trained psychometrician, and her interests are concentrated in the area of survey construction and validation, item response theory, rubric development, and classroom assessment. Her work has been presented at numerous conferences and published in peer-reviewed journals. She is co-editor and author of the book, A Pig Don't Get Fatter the More You Weigh It. Due to Dr. O'Connor's straightforward approach to managing data, the Data Dashboard webinars have been a highly popular series among participants. Now I would like to turn the webinar over to Dr. Rosemarie O'Conner.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Hi, and good afternoon. Welcome, and thank you, Sharon, for that glowing introduction. I would like to thank all of you for attending this afternoon. So here we are. This is our Creating and Using Dashboards for Teachers. This webinar is specifically designed for Mac users, as Sharon has pointed out. For those of you who work on a PC, please stay on and follow along. We have our webinar that's archived that is for PC users, so it's on our website, so please be sure to check it out. And I'd be remiss if I did not talk about the man who made this happen, our Excel macro expert, Gabriel Hartman. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to join us today, but if you have any questions as we go through about the actual macro, feel free to send us an email and Gabriel will be able to respond. So let's get started. As educators, there are times when we need to produce reports with identical information. And this can be a weekly or quarterly report that we send home to parents. And for those of you who are educators of secondary students, you may have multiple classrooms, multiple classes that you're teaching. And you may have to produce a report for each of those classes. And this dashboard that we'll be creating today can be used for that purpose as well. So anytime you have identical information that needs to be populated, you can use this automation system. And I'm going to demonstrate how you can automate reports by using something you have on your own computer, Word and Excel. So let's start by talking about the goals for this webinar. The goals are to understand basic dashboard design principles and how to apply them to create a dashboard. And at the end of this webinar, I provide you with a few links to other resources that really go into detail about dashboard design. We're just going to do a brief overview here just for time constraints. The focus really of the session today is going to be on learning to use the automation tools that are available in Word and Excel to produce dashboards. Now, this includes an understanding of how to organize and merge data from Excel into a Microsoft Word template. I apologize, my computer is freezing on me right now. So before we get started, as Sharon said, we are hoping that you have some experience using tools in Microsoft Word and Excel. So here's a quick poll to just rate your level of experience. So we have two polls. What is your level of experience creating tables using Microsoft Word? And also, what is your level of experience creating charts in Excel or charts in Word? So we see we have people with some experience, some advanced in using tables. That's great. And we have mostly experienced and advanced. We have a beginner. That's fine. We have resources at the end of the webinar to help you. So don't need to worry. We're not going to create charts right now. It's just talking you through the creation of charts in terms of this automation process. Thank you, Sharon. You can close our polls. And just before we begin, another reminder that we're hoping you have some experience using Word and Excel. And the macro that we are using today is compatible with Excel for Mac 2011. So if you have an earlier version of Excel, it may not work. And I'm really happy because our Excel expert is actually here. He's getting on the line right now, so I'm very excited, and I'll introduce you all to Gabriel shortly. Final thing to note before we begin, I know it's a rehash, but we are not creating a dashboard for the internet, so we're not going to go into HTML. Really, this is a paper copy of a dashboard. That's really what we're doing here today. So let's get started and talk a little bit about dashboards. Now, some of you might be wondering what I mean by a dashboard. And the best way to describe it is think of it as in terms of your car. Now, on your car, you have several gauges and displays that give information about your vehicle. You have the speedometer, your fuel gauge, and then that check engine light that none of us ever want to see light up. Now, these gauges are designed to report what is going on right now in your car. And we can create something that's comparable in education. We can create dashboards that present key pieces of information on student achievement. Now, dashboards are typically thought about in terms of online displays of information, but today I'm going to show you that we can use this for a paper copy. Now, private sector companies often use expensive, specialized software, really, to create dashboards. But I'm going to show you that we can create these cost-effective dashboards by using software that you have installed on your computers, either at work or at home, Word and Excel. And before I go any further, I'm going to say, welcome, Gabriel. We're glad you could join us. Gabriel, can you just say hello to everyone?
Hi, everyone.
This is our Excel expert.
I'm glad to join you all today.
Thank you, Gabriel. The education dashboard now. Data dashboards, they're sometimes referred to as scorecards in the literature. They're viewed as strategic management systems and communication tools that significantly enhance data-driven decision-making. And really, we see it as more of a newer tool in the teacher's toolbox. We always talk about teachers' toolboxes and all the information that we work with. Now, why would you be interested in dashboards? Well, you're here for a reason. Well, think about it. You work with the data every day, enormous amounts of data, different types of data. You work with quizzes and tests. You work with monitoring data. You're doing some response to intervention, working with your students. You have a lot of data that you work with on a daily basis. And a dashboard is a way to help you organize this data and tell a story to parents, to principals. Even helps your students understand where they stand in your classroom. And it also helps with data-driven decision-making. Classroom data provide a way that you can assess what students are learning and can demonstrate a student's progress toward goals. It also helps teachers plan instruction. Now, data dashboards have been used by teachers in the K-12 setting to assist with data-driven decision-making for several years now. And as I mentioned, some private sector companies, you have those big data dashboards. But unfortunately for some of us, maybe our school system doesn't have something that's user-friendly for us, something that we can use on a daily basis, and that's what this automation process, this macro, is going to show you today. Now, we're really not going to get into the whole data-driven decision-making, how to use data. IES has a practice guide that's great, and it provides these recommendations. The IES practice guide, using student achievement data to support instructional decision-making. It gives you much more information on data-driven decision-making than I could in this short time. It provides 5 recommendations to help educators use data to monitor students' academic progress and also to evaluate instructional practices. And we actually have a presentation of this practice guide on REL Mid-Atlantic's website. You can find it in the event archive. And it's a really good tool that you can use down the road. We're going to talk about progress reports. Now, many of us in education, we use these to just impart, some feedback to our students, to parents. And these are just typical progress reports that you may have seen. I've just taken a couple off the internet to show you. One is designed for younger students, elementary, and another one is designed for high school. But the great thing about the template we're going to use today is if you have something like this that you're using currently, we can actually use the template and the Excel file. We can actually use this and make it a dashboard. We can use what you have already. So I'm really excited about this. Let me show you this in action. Show you a demonstration of the automation process, what I'm talking about. Now let's say we needed to make 21 matching progress reports, one for each student in our class. We have a class of 21 students. And this is our progress report that we want to send home. Maybe we're doing these monthly. Looking at the Excel file, you can see that we have a lot of pieces of data in this report. And we're talking about 15 pieces of data that would need to be included in each report. going to our completed dashboards folder, you see there's nothing there. But what would we normally do? Well, in this case, we're going to press that nice little button and create reports. What we would do in the past is we would copy and paste, use that method, taking what was in the Excel file and dropping it into the Word document. And it would take a long time to do that. But what if I told you we can produce 21 reports in a minute? The automation process, as you see right here, is doing the work for us. It is doing the cutting and pasting as we speak. It's cutting and pasting, taking those pieces of data from Excel and just dropping it into that Word document. It's going to generate one for each of our students, and you can see that there. So by using Bookmarks in Word and Visual Basics for Applications Code, it's also known as VBA, in Excel, it's going to copy and paste the data into the report automatically. And we see that the automation process here created 21 reports in a minute. That's not bad. Pretty quick. It's going to depend on your computer. So how many of you would be interested in this? What are different ways that you could use a dashboard? Yeah, and we're using the term loosely. Use the dashboard in your classroom. And we have another poll for you to find out if you would be interested in using something like this. For some of you, maybe you're not a teacher, you're not a classroom teacher, but you work at the state or district level and you have to create reports. Yeah, maybe you have to do an annual report. You can use the same process. This macro, this VBA, can work for all of that. So we see that monitoring student progress, that's 100%, 90%. So I'm glad that this would be useful for you. Very happy. Thank you, Sharon. One thing that we need you to do before we get started, you see the resources to download box. If you can just take a moment, and hopefully you've done this already, but if you haven't, please download the files, the template file, the data file, and the handout file. We're going to do some hands-on activities. We're all educators, so learning by doing. And we have all this information for you to download, so please take a moment if you haven't already done so. And the Data Dashboards handout is the cheat sheet, I like to call it, of this webinar. So it gives you the how-to of working with the dashboard and working with the automation process. So if you have to leave early, you still have the information. Step one in the automation process is actually designing a data dashboard. This is your dashboard. You can have it look any way that you want it to look. It can be something that you've been using for years or something that you just created. It can be something that you found online, a Word document that you thought was really great. Or it could be something that your colleague down the hall has been using and you like it. The important thing is really to display your data in a meaningful way, and it really is going to depend on your purpose. So what we're going to do is start with a blank page, and then you just fill in the model with data. That's how you design a dashboard. You can create it from scratch or use something that you already have. Now, why are you going to create a dashboard? What is the purpose of your dashboard? It could be to communicate achievement to your students. It's going to be how you monitor their progress. And also can be how you evaluate your lessons. Are your students ready to move on to the next section or on to the next chapter? So really think about why you're creating it. And also think about your audience. And this is going to determine what information gets included in the dashboards. And also, when you think about who the intended users are, you think about the amount of information that you're going to include. Make sure that you include the most important, most relevant information and communicate the information clearly and concisely. Because a lot of times we have reports that are really big and bulky. In dashboard, you want it to be like your car dashboard. It gives you something very quickly, a piece of information very quickly and clearly. Now, think about the data that will be included in your dashboard. You have a lot of data that you work with. You have achievement data. You may have homework data. Maybe you want to let your students know that they're late on some assignments. They're not turning assignments in. Class participation, behavior data, that may be something you want to include in this progress report. And also attendance data. Are they missing class? Are they late? Is this a factor? Is this something that you use when you calculate grades? So these are all pieces of information that you want to include. And now that we've discussed the type of data you can have in there, what do you want it to look like? So this is all on you. What do you want it to look like? Number of pages. Typically, a dashboard shouldn't exceed 2 pages. So if you wanted to make it multiple pages, limit it to 2. Will it be broken into sections? And that's one of the reasons we say that we'd like you to have some experience working with tables, because tables allow you to break a Word document into sections. So you can do that. Also, will you include any kind of table? You may have a table of grades, or you may want to put it graphically in terms of a chart, maybe a line graph or a bar chart, whatever works for you. As I said before, you can take an existing document and just make it into a dashboard. And we're going to provide you with samples, and we've shown you a couple, progress reports. But you can use these for anything. Any kind of document that you have can work with preschool, up through high school and college, whatever kind of report that you want to give. The important thing is to just make sure that you're clearly presenting the data. You know, there are rules of dashboard design that they have for the internet, and they sort of apply for paper and pencil too. You know, you want to have important information up top, and you don't want to overcrowd the page. You want it to be clear, explicit, and also that you want to make sure that in charts, you know, modify some of the default settings in Excel, because Excel can really, you know, they throw lines in a graph. You know, you try to minimize what they call the data ink ratio. Do you have any questions on dashboard design? It's pretty much up to you. You can make it whatever you want it to be. You can take a report. You can change it. It's all up to you. You're the boss when it comes to this. We have someone typing in. Now we have one in the parking lot. Okay. Okay, Tiona asked about how this can work for non-teachers. We actually have a webinar series, Tiona, that came, this was last year, and it was geared for those who worked in research, those who were evaluators, assessment directors, and the techniques are the same. When we get into the automation process, it's exactly the same about inserting bookmarks and linking it to Excel, so it's identical. Here, it's just the focus that we have is geared for teachers. The URL for Dashboard Design Principles is at the end of the presentation, Debbie. We have a link to it, so a link to best practices. Can you present qualitative data presented on dashboards? You can present qualitative data. If you have that data in the Excel file, for example, if you have a write-up of comments for a student, you can actually, it will cut and paste it into your dashboard, Jared. It can do it. Okay, thank you. All right, let's get started. Now we get into the fun stuff. Now we're actually going to get into the automation process. And here we're going to create the Word template. This is where the fun happens, and this is where you can take something that you already have and make it a dashboard through the world of bookmarks. The first thing you need to think about is what you want your final version of your dashboard to look like. For someone like Tiona who's not working as an educator, as a teacher in a classroom, maybe she has a report that she has to send out every month. Maybe she works for a school district and it's a report on all the schools. All you have to do is create a bookmark on where the data change. That's the whole thing. So we know what our report wants to look like. That's the quote-unquote model dashboard. And then what you do is you highlight all those elements that will change from report to report. So you can either circle them or highlight those key pieces of data that need to change. And then these data elements are going to become bookmarks in the Word document. And each bookmark is a field, and your template will know where to populate. So I really like to refer to this as the mail merge on steroids. If you've ever worked with a mail merge, it's the same concept. So same idea, you're taking data from Excel columns and dropping it into a Word document. It's just on a bigger scale. Gabriel, am I saying that right? I always go to my Excel guru.
You got it exactly right, Rose.
Thanks. So the first thing that we need to do is to actually have the bookmarks show up in Excel. Now, sorry, not Excel, Word. It's late for me, 3:27. Okay. So the default setting in Microsoft Word is not to show bookmarks. And for those of you who open up the REL project.x file, you'll show bookmarks and you say, Rose, there's no bookmarks here. Yes, we know, you have to add those. But to show bookmarks in your Word document, the first thing you need to do is go up and click on Preferences right on Word's menu bar there. Click on Preferences. And then the Word Preferences dialog box will pop up, and then what you need to do under Authoring and Proofing Tools, that first row, is select View. And just click on that, and that will open up another box. So this View dialog box, and then what you do is you just check that little box that says Bookmarks, and once you do that, you should be able to see bookmarks within your file, your Word file. So to review, to make your bookmarks visible and to keep yourself organized, you go to the Word menu, you click on Preferences, Authoring and Proofing Tools, View, select Bookmarks. So just be sure you can do that. You can do that right now as I'm talking, and have it ready so you can add some bookmarks into the Word file. And this is what a Word template with bookmarks looks like. You notice brackets around student name. That's where we highlighted, and it just shows what will be replaced. So student name will be replaced with that data piece that's in your Excel file. You can also replace a text by just inserting. So you can see current grade in class. It looks like an I. That's just the brackets pushed together. So you can see where the bookmarks are located within this Word document. You can see that on your file. Now here's the important piece of information. It's adding bookmarks in Word. So this is how you go from just having a Word document to creating our dashboard. The key is bookmarks. So the first thing that you need to make sure of is that you're looking at the print layout. So for those of you working on a Mac here, make sure that you're on print layout, that you're not on notebook or outline. You want to be on the print layout. And then once you're on the print layout, you select Insert, and then you click on Bookmarks, and this will open up the bookmark dialog box. And then you just type in your bookmark name and Add. Select Add. So you could see that we have grade here. just a quick review. So to add bookmarks in Word on the View menu, make sure you're on the Print layout. Click where you want to put this bookmark. You can either highlight and add, or you can just put that little cursor wherever you want the bookmark to be. On the Insert menu, click Bookmark, and under Bookmark Name, type a name, and then you click Add. And I think the best way to really get this is to see it in action. So let me show you, give you a demonstration here. So here's our next video. So it's how to insert a bookmark in Word. So here we have our Word document. I'm highlighting the name. I go to the Insert menu and I select Bookmarks, and I'm going to call this bookmark Name. So I add it, and you see my little brackets appear. Here I'm just going to click and insert a bookmark, and we're going to just call this one Grade, since it's current grade in class. This will be Grade. We click Add, and let me show you one that's finished, and here's a document with all bookmarks in it. And if we open up the bookmark menu again, we see all the bookmarks that exist in this document. And what I recommend really is writing down all the bookmarks as you go along so you have the same bookmark name in your Excel data file. Now, some of you might be working from a data file that you already have. You have the data, but you just want to pull it into a report. So when you're adding the bookmark names into your document, you can use what you labeled your data as, so your data columns if it's in Excel. So whatever your column was named for your data, that data piece, that can be your bookmark name. The important thing really is to make sure that the names are identical, and Gabriel can attest to this. I have done this to poor Gabriel, where I've emailed him saying, Gabriel, the macro's not working, and he emails me back and said, yeah, your names aren't, the name in the file is not the same as the bookmark name. So don't follow my mistake. Make sure that you have them identical. It'll make your life easier. The last thing that you need to do is saving it as a Word template. This is the important thing. This is what lets the program know that this is your template document. So it's just easy, save as, and then you select the format, and it's Word template. It's a .x file. One thing to remember when you're saving, always make sure to know where it ended up. By default, it likes to go into My Templates, but maybe you want it somewhere else. You may want it in your documents. You may want it on your desktop somewhere where it's going to be easy for you to find it. Just make sure that you make a note of that. I know sometimes we just save something and then we're like, hey, where did it go? Just make sure of that. And one thing, because you guys are actually going to be able to insert some bookmarks shortly, when you open up that REL project.x file, once you open it, it's going to, if you try to save it and you just click Save, it's going to save it as a Word document and not the .x as the template. So just make sure that it's Save As and save it as a Word template file. Do you have any questions about inserting bookmarks that either I or Gabriel can answer? I think once you get to doing it, you'll see it's really easy. Oh, we have no questions. People are probably already over there inserting bookmarks, so let's do it. It's your turn. Okay, Sharon, we don't have any questions. All right, so let's insert some bookmarks. So if you open up the Word template file, we're going to ask you to add just 6 bookmarks. Pretty simple. Now, the bookmark names are listed in red, and they have to go in exactly as they're written here. So be careful of case and all that. So name, partic, homework av, exam av, grade, chart, underscore homework. This it has to be written this way. And once you do that, first make sure your bookmarks are showing up in your Word file, and then also add your bookmarks. And we'll give you about 5 minutes to do this. And then we'll move on and start working in Excel. And Sharon's going to play some music for us. Well, now that we've set up our Word document, we're going to move on to the next phase of the automation process. We're already into step 3, so we're going to start organizing the data, and this is basically setting up your Excel file. So the first thing to know that the template that we gave you here, the Excel file, it has 4 sheets. And to run the Excel macro, you will need these 4 sheets. So the first sheet is a setup sheet, and you can see the little tabs at the bottom. You have a data sheet where you're going to have all your data. You'll have the chart sheet where all your charts will be located, and then the code info sheet, which is really where you get the macro to run. And I'm going to go into detail with each sheet right now, actually, but I just wanted to clarify. I'm going to ask my Excel expert, Gabriel, if they have an Excel file that they've worked with, can they just add the macro to it?
Yeah, that is possible. If you're familiar enough with VBAs and macros, you can copy the macro over. You're going to want to have the same or very similar sheet set up, so setup, data, charts, and code info, but you can certainly do that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Gabriel. And the reason I wanted to mention that is I know that some of you may have data files already. For someone like Tiana who's working, she may have hundreds of data points, and she doesn't want to go and try to redo this. So this might be a way to, just insert the macro, the VBA. That's the critical piece here is the code. And so if you have 4 sheets, so if she has the data file, you can add other sheets. Now, you don't have to have a charts sheet. Maybe you don't want any charts. That's fine. No worries. But if you want one, this is how you can add charts into your dashboard. So the very first sheet that we're going to talk about right now is your setup sheet. And you would need to create a setup sheet with 3 columns. And column A is going to contain your bookmark name. So these should match what is in your Word files. Remember, this is the identical word, whatever term you're using, whatever your bookmark is, the bookmark name here should be the same. Column B is going to contain the column number of the dashboard data. And you can see that on Excel, they label columns alphabetically. I think, Gabriel, it's the way the macro was designed. It uses numbers. So we just have the numbers of the column.
That's correct.
And then column C is going to contain a short description of the bookmark. Now, you don't need to have this to make the macro run. It's more for your own reference, because I know myself when I'm working with data files, I may have something like grades, test grades, and I really, like, what year was this? I don't know. I don't remember. So this is the place where you can put that in. Or if you're working with, if it's test and it's a Chapter 7 test, you can have that in the description, if it's Chapter 7 test grades. However you want to do this. Now, looking at the setup sheet, we can see that the value for classwork is, I'm going to get my little cursor here. There it is. My little green cursor is hiding. See that classwork is in column 6. So when we go to the data sheet, you'll see that classwork scores are going to be in column 6. And here's the data sheet. I know it's hard to see. Maybe you can expand the presentation so you could see it. But if you look at the data sheet, the first 3 rows are the headers. And you can see that the bookmark names are in row 1. So you see name, grade, test, quiz. And it matches. I'll go back to setup here. There they are. Same. They're the same. And then we look at the column number. That's in row 3. And then the description is row 2. So if you have experience with Excel, copy, transpose, you can get that into your setup sheet. And here's all the data pieces. We can see that we have 21 students, so because we have 3 header rows, so 21 students in this class. An important piece of information, this comes into play later, where the data actually begins. This data begins in row 4. Now your header rows, you could have, 5, 6. I've seen bigger headers, multiple columns. Maybe you have a lot of information. Just the important thing is to remember where the data actually begins, because it will tell the macro where to go and start pulling data to start filling in your template. And here's the data sheet compared to the setup sheet. And we can see that there's a relationship between them. You see name is column 1. There it is, name, column 1, student name. That's the relationship. Now it's your turn. So we're going to give you a little bit of time, give you about 5 minutes with our music playing in the background to give you an opportunity to just complete that setup sheet. So on the REL project XLSM, that's your document, your Excel file, open it up and just complete the first 2 columns of the setup sheet. So it's just 6 rows, so 6 bookmarks, where they're located in the spreadsheet on the data sheet. And when you open it up, it's going to ask you if you want to enable macros. That's the thing with the Mac. It pops up immediately. Please accept enable the macros, because that's important. That'll get your automation to function. So Sharon, if we can get started, and we'll give everybody, give them about 5 minutes to complete this. Okay, that's time. I hope you were able to get that data, get the bookmark names in and the column numbers. If not, keep working. And we're just going to talk a little bit now about the third sheet, which is the chart sheet. And the chart sheet, you can create charts that can be inserted into your Word document. And the way the macro is set up, there's a separate sheet where the charts would be located. So what you would want to do is really create your charts before running the code, because charts typically require some modification, some adjustment, like resizing font for readability, or maybe you want to change some of the default settings. And what I recommend is setting up the chart with your desired color scheme and font, and then just duplicate it. Just copy and paste, and then you can just, go back to select the data source, and, then it'll populate it. It'll make your life easy. So if you really do one chart, make it look all pretty, and then just duplicate it. It's the easiest, really, way to do this in the macro here. One thing that's very important, your chart names should be unique. Each chart has its own name. As you can see, this one is labeled Chart 1. Be sure to record the name for each chart. It's important that they have the unique name, so if you're working with different data for your students, you want that student's data to be in the chart. So just make sure that you notice that chart name. And bookmark names for charts start with chart underscore. And Gabriel, that's also another macro issue,
right.
Correct? That's okay. Just making sure. Want to verify. He's the macro expert. I go to him. So when you want to include a chart in your Word document, your bookmark name should be chart underscore. And we can see that right here. So chart underscore Q is our quiz grade, and chart underscore HW is homework chart. And there they are on the data sheet, and you can see that each individual has their own chart. So the final sheet is code info. That's the fourth sheet. And this is where we give the program some information about where your data begins. Remember, I said, we're in row number 4. Well, that's where the data starts. So you can see the little screenshot of the actual data sheet on the bottom with the row of data starting in row 4. So we would just add that in, letting them know data begins in row 4. It tells you tells your macro exactly where to go and get some data. So that's basically it for organizing the data in Excel. You need to organize it into 4 sheets. If you have data already in a sheet, you have a spreadsheet of data, you would just need to add a setup sheet, excuse me, a code info sheet. You could even copy and paste this one into it. And then you can add the macro itself. We usually recommend, just use the Excel file that we gave you as a guide, and you can copy a worksheet into another Excel file, where you could just move or copy sheet. You just select copy sheet, and you can select, this template if you want to drop it in so your data is there, and then you can just work from there. And I've actually done it. I've tested it out, so it does work. So hopefully that's the way we set up our Excel file. Do you have any questions about organizing the data in Excel? And Sharon popped out the box for us. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And if I cannot answer them, I know that Gabriel can.
Or I'll try at least.
You'll do fine. You always do. Okay. Debbie has a question. Didn't understand automated population of charts as set up in this file. Okay, let me just go back for you, Debbie, and if you could just move the question box, Sharon. I just wanted to go back here for Debbie. So what you would have in each of these charts, you would have your own chart for that data. You know, you can just copy it from even if it's in the data file of your spreadsheet, if you have certain pieces of data that you wanted to just present graphically. What you would do with this chart, so you have chart 1. Chart 1 in this case is really hard to see, but that's Jennifer's quiz grades, Jennifer Alicio. So those are her quiz grades, and it's chart 1. So when you're in your data sheet, I'm going to go back and see if I can go back. Oh, it's hard to see. In Jennifer's data sheet, what we have in the column that's for charts, Debbie, it's listed as chart 1. I put my little arrow there. Hopefully you could see that. But it would be written down as chart 1. So what that would do, because the bookmark would be chart underscore Q in chart 1, what it's doing is it's going to tell the macro, okay, chart 1 goes with this student, so it'll go and pull that chart and drop it in. Unfortunately, Debbie, yes, you must manually make a chart for each student. But if you have charts that are already made, you can drop them in. So if you're working with something that you have charts, I mean, you can have them dropped in. Gabriel, is there any way they could like automate that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this current tool does not automate the chart building process for you, but if you're familiar with VBA, you can definitely add on to the macro to produce charts for you in an automated fashion as well.
I hope that helps, Debbie. Any other questions? I'm just going to scooch up here. You're welcome, Debbie. Anyone else? No other questions. Okay. We're going to move on to running the code. Some of you may have already done this. Let's create our reports. This is the fun part. This is what everyone's been waiting for. So what you need to do here, you know, and when you first opened up your Excel file, if you were working on a Mac, this would have popped up saying that it contains macros. Enable the macros. That's the only way you're going to get this to work. We've had people tell us, hey, it's not working, and then come to find out they disabled the macros. So important to do that. And then all you need to do is run the macros. So you click that little Create Reports button, that handy-dandy button, and it will do the work for you. The magic will happen, and all the reports will be populated. Once you click that button, the way Gabriel has this set up is a menu will pop up, and it'll ask you to select your Word template file. And so here we're going to go with our rel example.x. So this is good. So wherever you may have stored your template file, you can go and get it. Initially, when we first had this this macro pulled together, you had to store the Excel file and the template in the same place. Here, you don't have to. It'll go and search for you. And then you need to select a folder where you want to put this. Here, I just created a completed dashboards folder. You may want it on your desktop. You may have a shared folder that you have at work. That may be something where you want to put this data. Oh, my error message is that the path does not exist. She's working on a PC, Gabriel.
So Debbie, one issue that I've run into before is that when you're selecting the folder, sometimes you double click on the folder. What this macro wants you to do is kind of select the folder and then click OK versus double clicking on a folder.
Let's see if that helps. What I'd like to do now is just show you the four-step process, once again give you another demo so you could see it in action. So let's start at the beginning. Let's work on this. So here is our template file, and we have all our bookmarks. See, we had already created it. We were on step 2. And if I click on my bookmarks, there it is, quiz. It's going to show me where it is, quiz average. What if I wanted to look at where my chart is for my quiz grades? I can click on chart_Q, go to, and it shows, there it is. That's where the chart is going to be dropped. Here is quiz. It's located in column 4 of my data sheet. So when we go to the data sheet, there's quiz. And column 4, that's where it's located. Here's our charts. Chart is in column 15, and there's quiz charts are in column 15. We go to charts, and here we could see the numbers of each chart. So this is chart number 41. Remember, each chart has its own number, and that would be for Nicole Zach. That's her chart. We go to the code info sheet. Data begin in row 4. We go back to the data sheet, and we'll see that it is in row 4. We go back to code info, create our reports, and here we go. Select our example. Word template. We say where we want to put them. In completed dashboards, we click choose, and it's going to run. It's running behind the scenes. So go to completed dashboards, and you see that it's starting to populate. And through the wonders of technology, we could see this. It's populating. It populates as it goes. And when it's all done, you'll get this little box that says excelexpert.com process complete. You click OK. And then you can go back wherever your folder is where you've saved all your completed dashboards. There they are. All 21. And hopefully it's working for you all. Thanks, Sharon. So hopefully this is working for you guys. I hope it's functioning. Fingers crossed. It worked, yay. Oh no, Tina is struggling. Okay, Tina, tell us what message you're getting. And the macro that the Excel file that you have, it works on both a Mac and a PC. So just wanted to put that out there. Gabriel, get ready. These will be questions for you. Yes, Angie, this is going to be recorded, and you can review it. When should that be available? Either Shweta or Sharon? We're going to have those on our website, and it'll be available for you. When I hit run, it didn't create. It just disappeared. Okay, need to find out, do you remember the folder where you have it saved? It didn't create. It disappeared. The actual Excel file disappeared? So why would that happen, Gabriel? Why would it disappear?
I'm struggling a little bit to understand the question. I think your question was very relevant. Is it the Excel file itself disappeared, or the output files disappeared?
Error 13, error transferring data for bookmark name.
Okay, that's probably a mismatch in the bookmark name. So either the bookmark in the Word file doesn't match the bookmark name in the Excel file.
Just double check the names, Tina. Oh, you're supposed to save it as a template. When clicking Run Reports, macro can't be found. Did you enable macros when you opened the Excel file, Beverly? Yes. Yes, Vicki, the Word template that you created where you added the 6 bookmarks and you saved it as a Word template, yes, that's what you're selecting to run the macro. Okay, I'm wondering, okay, so Vicki had the same error message. Hopefully that helps Tina.
Yeah, it is very important to, save your work in the Word template, save it as a template, and then you want to go ahead and close that file before running the macro from Excel.
When I downloaded it, it said to open and repair.
I would recommend trying to download it again. Sounds like something, some kind of problem happened in that file.
Oh, poor thing. She did 3 times. Beverly, send an email to me at the end, and I will send the files directly to you. My email is at the end of the presentation. I hope it works for you. If not, you can always send an email to me or to Gabriel. Usually I CC Gabriel, so if there's any macro problems, he's there to help. And we've had that happen where people downloaded it and they had an issue, but when we email it to them, they do fine. So hopefully, knock on wood, it'll work. I'm wondering if anyone else has any other questions about the automation process. Vicki's typing. Okay, that's a question for you, Gabriel.
That is pretty interesting. Do you have maybe 2 versions of the Excel file open, or? Yes. Sorry. So you want the not original one. So that is we had made some changes to make this macro compatible with both Mac and Word, and so the original is basically Mac and PC. The original is basically PC only. The this workbook.main is Mac and PC compatible.
And Tina asked if they will get a link to the recorded session. Yes, we will. We send those in a few days.
Yes, Vicki, you can just...
I have done that, Vicki. I've copied the code. Yes, you can. You're welcome. Are there any other questions? Boy, we finished this one up quick. All right, so here's some, any final questions? Here's some resources on dashboards People have asked about information about dashboards, Excel basics, creating charts, and then here's from Excel. It's about macros, so you could learn more about it. For those of you who are wondering where the developer tab is in your Excel file, it's not something that shows up automatically, so you would have to find it. You have to show it like you did with bookmarks, show bookmarks. So on Excel, if you go to Preferences, and in Excel on the ribbon, you go to Preferences. The third row, it says Sharing and Privacy. There's Ribbon. If you click on Ribbon and you just scroll under Customize and you just click on the Developer tab, the Developer tab will pop up, and that's where the macro is. That's where the macro would be. So if you wanted to copy it and paste it into another Excel file, you can. But just remember, you need that setup sheet. It's a quirk with the macro. This is the way that was designed. So you have the setup sheet, you'll have your data sheet, and that code info sheet and charts sheet. Really, if you want to put charts, you'll need to have that sheet. And I really hope this helped you all today. I wish I had it back in my days when I used to work for the Department of Defense and we had to do these reports for all the schools in Europe and the Pacific and stateside. That would have made my life easy. If you are working on this and you encounter any questions, problems, please come to the REL Mid-Atlantic forum here. You can just ask questions and I'll be glad to answer. And if I can't answer, I'll always refer you to Gabriel. And then last thing is, please take a minute to complete our survey. Your feedback's very important to us. We try to do these webinars and trainings to help our stakeholders, and we truly want your feedback. We've made a lot of changes to this webinar series. This is the last one for data dashboards. This out of the 8 that we've done, Gabriel and team, this is our last one. So that's anything that any feedback you can share, that'd be great. And we're going to stay on. I think when I click on the evaluation link, or Sharon, are you going to do that to take them to their to the survey? And we'll also send you the survey via email. Okay, Tina asks, was I supposed to remove the name and replace with the bookmark?
So, Tina, you can do it either way. When you put the bookmark in, you can either delete the name and place the bookmark there, or as Rose had mentioned, you can highlight the name and place the bookmark around the name. And then in that case, when you run a macro, that name should be replaced with your data.
Let me put the last slide up for everyone. They want to reach out to me. And I want to thank everybody for their time this afternoon. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you find it useful. And for those of you who weren't working as teachers, you can still use this in, reporting. This is a good way to actually get your reports to be automated. So it'll make your life easier. So I hope it does anyway. That was the intent behind it. So thank you very much for your time.